Marcus Tate had answered 4 questions, scored 194 points on fast money, and was standing 11 seconds away from winning $22,500, the exact amount his daughter's pediatric cardiologist had written on a piece of paper 9 months ago, when the side door of the Family Feud studio burst open, and a 6-year-old girl in a yellow coat came running across the stage floor. She wasn't looking at the cameras. She wasn't looking at the audience. She wasn't looking at Steve Harvey, who had frozen mid-sentence with a scoring card in each hand. She was looking at one person, and she was calling him one thing. Dad! The word hit the room the way certain words hit rooms, not loud, not dramatic, just completely and irrevocably true. Marcus heard her before he turned. He knew that voice the way you know your own heartbeat, not by thinking, by the way it moves through your chest before your brain has processed anything at all. He turned. She was already airborne. He dropped to one knee and caught her in both arms with the particular grip of a man who would break every other thing in the room before he let this one fall, her face against his shoulder, her small fists curled into the back of his jacket, both of them holding on in the specific way that people hold on when they have been scared for a long time and have finally run out of reasons to pretend otherwise. The audience did not applaud. They went completely still. Steve Harvey lowered the scoring cards. He didn't speak. He just watched. You need to understand what it took to get to that moment. Because nothing about it was simple, and nothing about it was accidental, and the man on his knee in the middle of a game show stage had been working his way toward that 1 second for the better part of 2 years. This is how it happened. Family Feud tapes its afternoon block at a studio in Atlanta that runs on the specific energy of 40 people in headsets making something look easy. From the audience, it looks seamless. The lights, the music, the board, Steve Harvey's pocket square pressed to a geometry that suggests professional assistance. From the inside, it is orchestrated in the way that all live television is orchestrated, carefully, with contingency plans and a baseline acceptance that something unexpected will happen every single day. Nobody had planned for Chloe. The Tate family arrived at 11:45 on a Thursday morning in early November and went through the standard intake process. Paperwork, microphone, fitting, a warm-up with a production assistant named Brianna who had run approximately 500 of these warm-ups and could still make each one feel like the first. There were 5 of them. Marcus, 38, standing at the back of the group with the posture of someone conserving something. His Aunt Dolores, 62, from Mobile, Alabama, who had driven the full distance the night before and treated the arrival like a field trip she had personally organized, which was not entirely inaccurate. His cousin Andre, 34, who played rec league basketball on Tuesday nights and had the baseline confidence of someone who believed things usually worked out. Andre's wife Tamsin, 31, who had packed a Ziploc bag of snacks for the wait and was completely unembarrassed about it. And Marcus's mother, Evelyn, 66, who had not been part of the original plan and had been added at the last minute for a reason no one had explained to Marcus. Marcus had asked Evelyn why she was there. "I wanted to see you win," she said. "You could watch it when it airs." "I wanted to see it in person," she said in the tone she used when a conversation was finished. Marcus had let it go. He had other things to think about. Brianna ran the warm-up questions. Dolores was competitive and loud about it in an endearing way. Andre was sharp. Tamsin was thoughtful. Evelyn answered correctly and quietly each time with the particular calm of someone who has already settled the most important question of the day. Marcus answered every question right. Each time he paused for a full beat before answering, not hesitating exactly, thinking, making sure. Brianna made a note on her clipboard. Marcus Tate was 38 years old and had the face of someone who had been serious for a while. Not sad, serious. The kind of face that comes from carrying something with intention instead of just carrying it. He was broad across the shoulders, unhurried in his movements, and wore a navy button-down tucked into dark slacks with shoes that had been polished twice that morning because the first time hadn't felt like enough. He was the kind of man who showed up prepared for things because he had learned what it cost when you didn't. He had learned that lesson specifically, at a specific moment, in a specific doctor's office in Chattanooga, Tennessee, 14 months ago. He was not going to be unprepared today. Chloe Tate was 6 years old, missing her 2 front teeth, and in possession of a laugh that 3 separate adults had described, independently and without prompting, as unreasonably large for her body. She had her father's chin and her mother's eyes, and a way of paying attention to things that made adults feel, when she looked at them, that they were being seen with more accuracy than was strictly comfortable. She also had a heart defect. It had been identified at her 4-year-old checkup by a pediatrician in Chattanooga who had listened to her chest. Listened again. and then said she was going to refer them to a specialist, which she said in the specific calm tone of doctors who have learned that the tone matters as much as the information. The specialist was a pediatric cardiologist named Dr. Ose, who had offices in a building near the hospital, and a manner that was precise and warm in equal measure, and who had explained Chloe's condition to Marcus over the course of 2 appointments, with the kind of thoroughness that was either reassuring or terrifying depending on where you were sitting. Marcus had been sitting across a desk from a doctor who was telling him his daughter needed surgery. He had been in the terrifying column. The surgery was described as corrective, not emergency. The structural issue in Chloe's heart was real but stable, manageable with monitoring in the short term, and the window for optimal surgical outcome was best utilized before she turned 8. Dr. Osa had been clear. This was not a crisis yet. It was a clock. Marcus had sat in the parking lot of the medical building for 40 minutes after that appointment. He had not called anyone. He had sat in his car and looked at the steering wheel and done the math he had already done 100 times, which was the same math every time. The surgery cost, after insurance, was $22,500. His savings account had $3,800 in it. He made $17 an hour at the warehouse where he had worked for 6 years. He had taken every overtime shift available for the past 8 months. He was $18,700 short, and the gap was closing, but not fast enough. He drove back to his mother's house, where Chloe was watching a nature documentary about birds with the focused attention of a child who had decided birds were currently the most interesting thing in the world. "Did you know pelicans can hold 3 gallons in their beak?" she asked him when he walked in. "I did not know that." "That's a lot." "That's a lot," he confirmed. She went back to the documentary. He sat on the couch beside her. He did not tell her about the appointment. He would not tell her. Not about the surgery, not about the money, not about the clock. She knew her heart was a little tired sometimes, which was the phrase Marcus had used when she was 5 and asked why she had to rest more than other kids, and she had accepted it with the philosophical practicality of a child who trusts the person telling her. She believed resting helped. She believed it would be okay. Marcus was going to make sure she was right. In Chloe's room, on the wall above her dresser, there was a drawing she had made when she was 4, a crayon figure labeled Daddy, in the enormous, effortful letters of a child who has recently learned that letters mean something, holding the hand of a smaller figure labeled Me, both of them standing in front of a house with a sun so large it crowded out the sky. Marcus had photographed that drawing the day she made it. He had printed the photo at the pharmacy, wallet-sized. He had put it in his wallet and carried it every day since. He carried it to the warehouse every morning. He carried it to every one of Chloe's medical appointments. He carried it on the 3 occasions he had applied for financial assistance and been declined for one reason or another. He carried it through the months of overtime and the months of calculating, and the night Dollars had called him about the Family Feud casting call she had found online and told him 14 times in a single phone call that he needed to apply. "It's $25,000 if you win fast money," Dollars had said. "I know what the prize is." "Then why are we still talking about whether you're going to apply?" He had applied. That had been 7 months ago. The taping was today. Chloe did not know about the taping. She did not know because Marcus had made a decision early on that he was not going to tell her, not because he wanted to keep secrets from his daughter, but because he understood something about hope and about children. Chloe would believe completely. She would believe they were going to win. She would be certain of it, the way she was certain about most things, with the full force of a 6-year-old's conviction. And if they didn't win, he would be the person who watched that certainty break. He was not willing to do that to her. So he had told her he was going to Atlanta for work. She had kissed him goodbye at his mother's door and told him to bring her something. "Like what?" "Surprise me," she said. "I like surprises." He had driven to Atlanta with his family and the wallet photo and the hope he was carrying quietly, the way he carried most things, without performance, without announcement, just steadily, 1 mile at a time. The Tate family was matched against the Wheeler family from Birmingham. 5 people who had done their homework and brought the right energy and were genuinely good competition, which Marcus was grateful for, because easy wins didn't feel earned and he needed this one to feel earned. The first round went to the Wheelers, close but theirs. The second round went to the Tates, largely on the strength of Dollars, who buzzed in on the second syllable of each question with the confidence of someone who had been preparing for this specific moment since the casting call and had not stopped preparing. Steve Harvey had found her immediately. "You've been practicing," he said to Dollars. "I have been practicing," she confirmed without embarrassment. "What you practice on?" "Old episodes, flashcards." "I made my nephew quiz me." "Which nephew?" She pointed at Marcus. Steve turned to Marcus with the particular expression he used for moments like this, amused but already looking for the thing underneath. She made you make flashcards. She sent them to me in the mail, Marcus said. Physical flashcards in an envelope. With a cover letter, Dollars added. The audience laughed. Steve Harvey laughed. Marcus smiled, a real one, briefly, the kind that surfaces in people when something reminds them of what's normal. Steve let the laugh land. Then, "So, Marcus, where are you coming from?" "Chattanooga. Long drive for a Thursday." "Yes, sir. What do you do in Chattanooga?" "Warehouse logistics, floor operations." "How long you been doing that?" 6 years. "You like it?" "I'm good at it." Steve Harvey smiled at that answer in the way he smiled at answers that told him something real. "That's a different thing," he said. "You good at it or you like it?" Marcus considered. "I like that it pays for the things that matter." "What things matter?" A pause, one beat, the kind of beat that separates a public answer from a real one. "My daughter," Marcus said. The word landed the way it landed. Steve Harvey went still, not performatively, actually still. "How old?" 6. "She here today?" "No, sir. She thinks I'm here for work." "You didn't tell her?" "No, sir." "Why not?" Marcus looked at Steve Harvey with the expression of a man who has thought about this question for months and has an answer but is not certain it will translate outside of his own head. "Because if it doesn't work, I didn't want her to have to pretend it was okay," he said. "She's 6. She doesn't know how to pretend yet, and I never want to be the reason she learns." The room went quiet in the particular way that rooms go quiet when something honest has been said in a space not designed for honesty. Steve Harvey looked at Marcus Tate for 3 full seconds. Then he said, "Let's make sure it works." He moved on. The game continued, but Steve Harvey had filed something away, and Evelyn, standing at the back of the Tate family group, had been watching the whole exchange. She reached into her jacket pocket. She checked a message on her phone. She put it away. Marcus did not notice. The third round was the tightest. The Wheelers had regrouped between rounds with the specific quiet focus of a family that had decided to stop being impressed by the moment and start playing the game, which made them considerably more dangerous. Their oldest, a woman named Patricia, 44, who had been the most composed person in the room since they walked in, went on a run in round 3 that had the Tates behind by 47 points going into the final question. Marcus buzzed in. "Name something a person does every morning without thinking about it." "Makes coffee." Survey said 41 points, top answer. The Tates won the round by 6 points. They were going to fast money. Dollars reacted the way Dollars reacted to things, loudly, completely, with her whole body. Andre picked up Tamsin briefly, which she accepted with the grace of someone who knew this was coming. Evelyn smiled quietly, looked at her phone once more, and put it back in her pocket. Marcus stood at the podium. Looked at his hands. He had done the math before he came. He knew what the family needed. A combined fast money score of 200 points or more to win the full $22,500. Andre had agreed to go first. He was their strongest buzzer, good under pressure, and they decided in the hotel the night before that he would carry the foundation and Marcus would close. Andre went into the booth. He came out with 152 points. The family needed 48 more. 48 points from 5 questions in 20 seconds. Marcus was good under pressure. He knew he was good under pressure because pressure had been the default condition of his life for 14 months and he had not stopped functioning yet. Steve Harvey walked him to the fast money podium. The isolation glass came down, sealing Andre from the answers. Steve stopped beside Marcus for just a moment. "You've been carrying something all day," he said quietly, not for the microphone, just to Marcus. "Yes, sir. You ready to put it down?" Marcus looked at the podium. "If I win, yeah," Steve Harvey nodded once. 20 seconds on the clock. The music started. "Name something people save for years to buy." "A house." "Name something a child asks for every single night." "One more story." "Name a reason someone would sleep in their car." "Long drive." "Name something a father keeps that no one else knows about." Marcus answered without pausing. "A picture of his kid." "Name something people do when they're afraid but won't say so." "Keep working." The buzzer, Steve Harvey looked at the first card. "A house," survey says. The board turned, 34 points. "One more story," survey says, 29 points, running total 63. "Long drive," survey says, 22 points, running total 85. They already had enough. The audience knew it. The noise started. Steve held up his hand. "A picture of his kid," survey says. The board paused. Marcus was still, 38 points, running total 123. And keep working, survey says. The board, 41 points. Total fast money score, 164 points, combined with Andre's 152, 316 points. The Tate family had won $22,500. The audience was on its feet. Dollars was somewhere between laughing and crying and had made the decision not to choose. Andre grabbed Marcus from behind with both arms. Tamsin had both hands over her mouth. Evelyn walked off to the side of the stage. Nobody noticed. Marcus stood at the podium, his eyes closed, both hands flat on the surface. The breath that came out of him was not the breath of someone who had won a game show. It was the breath of a man who had been holding the weight of a specific number for 14 months and had just set it down. $22,500. Dr. Osai's number. Surgery number. The number that had been sitting at the edge of every thought, every overtime shift. Every morning he got Chloe ready for school and looked at her and smiled because she didn't know and he needed her not to know. It was done. He opened his eyes. Steve Harvey was standing in front of him. "You all right?" "Yeah," Marcus said. "Yeah, I'm all right." Steve Harvey looked at him carefully. "The picture," he said. "Something a father keeps that no one else knows about." "You said a picture of his kid." "Yes, sir." "You got one?" Marcus reached into his wallet. He took out the photo, small, wallet-sized, worn at the corners, and held it up. Chloe's crayon drawing. "Daddy and me and the enormous sun." Steve Harvey looked at it. He looked at Marcus. He looked at the photo again. "You carry this every day." "Every day. She drew this when she was 4. Steve Harvey was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Don't go anywhere. I need 5 minutes." He handed the photo back to Marcus and walked off stage. Marcus looked at his family. Nobody knew what was happening. And that was not the part that stopped the show. What Marcus Tate did not know was that his mother Evelyn had been running a separate operation since 7:00 that morning. Evelyn Tate was 66 years old and had raised 3 children largely by herself and had specific opinions about what constituted acceptable behavior from adults in her orbit. And one of those opinions, firm, unambiguous, maintained across all contexts, was that a father winning money for his daughter's surgery while his daughter sat at home watching bird documentaries was not acceptable behavior. It was, in Evelyn's considered opinion, a waste of a moment. She had not told Marcus this. She had told Dolers. Dolers had agreed immediately. Together, without informing Marcus, they had organized the following. Evelyn's neighbor and longtime friend Vera would pick Chloe up from Evelyn's house at 7:30 a.m. The drive from Chattanooga to Atlanta was 2 hours and 41 minutes under normal conditions, and slightly less if Vera drove the way she typically drove, which she did. Vera would have Chloe in the studio parking lot by 10:30. A production assistant who had been briefed by Dolers the week before would meet them and bring them to a green room. Chloe would wait there until the right moment. "What does she know?" the production assistant had asked Dolers. "She knows her dad is at work in Atlanta and her grandma's friend is taking her for a ride. That's all. She's 6. She doesn't need a briefing. She needs to see her dad." The production assistant had made a note. Chloe had arrived at 10:22 a.m., which was ahead of schedule because Vera drove the way Dolers had anticipated. She had been brought to a green room with 2 production assistants, a bowl of grapes, and a television playing a children's nature program, which she had approved of. She had asked where her dad was every 18 minutes for 3 hours. She had been told each time, "Almost, baby, almost." She had eaten most of the grapes. She had watched the nature program. She had at one point fallen asleep briefly, woken up, and immediately asked if they were there yet in the tone of someone who was not going to accept a non-answer this time. "Almost," said the production assistant. "You keep saying almost. Almost means really soon." Chloe had considered this and accepted it provisionally. When the fast money round ended and the board lit up with the winning total, Evelyn, who had been monitoring the stage from the wings, sent a text to the green room. "Now." The production assistant opened the green room door. She said, "Your dad is on stage. We're going to walk out," and Chloe was already moving. The production assistant reached for her. Chloe was fast. The assistant was wearing heels. The physics of this were not in anyone's favor. Later, the stage manager would describe it as, "She came through that door like she had somewhere to be." Later, Dolers would describe it as, "Exactly what I knew was going to happen." Later, Chloe would describe it as, "I saw the lights and I looked for Dad and I ran. 6 years old, yellow coat, 2 missing front teeth, running full speed across the stage of a live television show toward the only person she was looking for." The side door opened. "Dad!" Marcus turned. She was already halfway across the stage. He moved without thinking, the way you move toward the things that matter before your brain gives permission, before you've assessed the situation or calculated the appropriate response. He was off the podium and across the stage in 4 steps and down on one knee by the time she reached him, and she ran straight into his arms without slowing, both of them absorbing the impact with the ease of people who have been holding onto each other their whole lives. "Daddy." "Hey, baby. I found you." "Yeah," he said. "You found me." She had her face buried in his shoulder and both arms around his neck and her feet off the ground, and she was not letting go. He was not letting go either. The room was completely silent. Not quiet, silent. The specific silence of 40 people and a studio audience of 230 deciding, without discussion, that this was not a moment that needed managing. Steve Harvey had not moved from center stage. He stood with the scoring cards at his side and watched Marcus Tate hold his daughter on the floor of the Family Feud stage and did not say anything because some moments do not need a host. They need a witness. After a long moment, 30 seconds, maybe 40, long enough for the room to breathe, Chloe pulled back from her father's shoulder. Not all the way, just enough to look at him. She looked at his face. She looked at him the way 6-year-olds look at things they have been worried about and have now verified, closely, thoroughly checking. Then, Grandma said you won. Marcus exhaled a laugh. Yeah. Is it enough? The room, which had been still, went stiller. A 6-year-old on a stage asking her father if it's enough. She didn't know what she was asking. She was asking if the work trip had gone well. She was asking the question the way children ask questions, directly, without the social armor adults spend years building, without any understanding of the weight the answer was carrying. Marcus looked at her. He reached into his wallet. He took out the photo. He held it up so she could see it, her crayon drawing, wallet-sized, worn at the corners, carried every single day for 2 years through every shift and every doctor's appointment and every calculation and every moment of fear he had not shown her. I had you with me the whole time, he said. Chloe looked at the drawing. She looked at her father. That's me, she said. That's you. I made that when I was little. I know. She considered the drawing with the serious attention she gave to things that mattered. My son is too big, she said. I like your son, he said. I can draw you a better one now. My sons are better. Yeah, I'll make you a new picture when we get home. Marcus pressed his forehead against hers. Deal, he said. Steve Harvey, who had been standing at center stage with the expression of a man who has been in this business a long time and is still sometimes undone by it, walked slowly forward. He stopped a few feet from Marcus and Chloe. He crouched down slightly so he was closer to their level. Young lady, he said. Chloe looked at him. I need you to know something. She waited. Your dad is the real deal. Chloe thought about this for a moment. I know, she said, without hesitation, without performance, just the simple certainty of a child who has never had reason to think otherwise. The audience broke. The real kind of laughter, the kind that comes from a place that is also crying, that cannot fully separate one from the other, that comes out of people when something has moved them past the point of maintaining composure and they have decided to stop trying. The production team let it breathe. No cut, no redirect, no one in a headset issuing instructions. The family came to Marcus from the side of the stage, Dollars first, who swept Marcus and Chloe into an embrace that had been building since the moment she made the phone call to Evelyn 3 weeks ago. Andre and Tamsin close behind. Evelyn, who had come from the wings now, who did not say anything but put her hand on Marcus's back briefly in the way mothers do when they are both apologizing and confirming that they would do it again. Marcus looked at his mother. You planned this. Dollars helped. Dollars always helps. That's not an inaccurate statement, Dollars said from inside the hug. Marcus laughed. He held Chloe with one arm and looked at his family with the other and felt the specific feeling of a man who has been alone inside a problem for a long time and has suddenly, all at once, been reminded that he was not actually alone at all. When the family had settled, when Chloe had been introduced to Steve Harvey and decided he was acceptable and had asked him if he knew about pelicans, which he did not, and had informed him about the 3-gallon capacity with the gravity of someone delivering important news, Steve walked back to center stage. He took his microphone. He was quiet for a moment. The audience settled. I want to say something, Steve Harvey said, and I mean it, so I need you to let me say it right. The room was with him. I have been on this stage for a long time, long time. I have seen families win big and families go home with nothing, and I have seen just about everything in between. He paused. What I have learned, and this took me a while to understand, is that the game is never about the game. He looked at Marcus. This man came here today for one reason, not to be on television, not for the experience. He came here because his daughter has a heart that needs fixing, and he has been working every overtime hour available to him for more than a year, and he found a number that matched the number he needed, and he drove to Atlanta and he played the game. He paused. That's it. That's the whole story. A man who needed something for his child and went and got it. He looked out at the audience. And he carried her picture in his wallet the whole time, every day, every shift, every appointment he sat through alone. Every night he did the math and it didn't add up. He carried that drawing. He looked back at Marcus. That drawing is a 4-year-old's crayon picture of the two of them in front of a house, and this man treated it like it was the most important document he owned. Because it was. Because that drawing is his daughter telling him, I see you, you're my dad, we're together, and he needed to remember that every day. Steve Harvey straightened. Let me say something to every parent in this room and everybody watching at home. Your kids are watching how you carry the hard things. They can't always see what you're carrying, but they see how you carry it. They see whether you keep going. They see whether you show up. and they will remember not the struggle, but the fact that you never let it make you someone they couldn't recognize. He looked at Chloe, who was sitting on Marcus's hip with one arm around his neck and the other hand holding the wallet photo, examining it with interest. She already knows, Steve said. She told me herself. Chloe looked up. He's the real deal, she confirmed to the room helpfully. The audience laughed and applauded at the same time. Steve Harvey pressed 2 fingers to his mouth briefly and looked at the ceiling. Marcus Tate looked at his daughter. She was looking at the drawing. Son really is too big, she said. I love your son, he said. I'll make you a better one. I'll carry that one too. She considered this, satisfied. Okay, she said. Can I have some of the grapes from the room? I didn't finish them. Yeah, baby, you can have the grapes. Chloe Tate's surgery was scheduled for December 11th, 6 weeks after the taping. Dr. Osa called it a textbook procedure. Marcus would later say that textbook was the most beautiful word in the English language. He took the week off work. He sat in the hospital the day of the surgery for 4 hours and 32 minutes, and he did not look at his phone, and he did not read the magazine someone left on the chair beside him, and he did not attempt to distract himself in any way. He sat in a chair and he waited, because waiting was the thing that was happening, and he was going to be fully present for it whether or not that was comfortable. When Dr. Osa came through the doors and said the surgery had gone well, Marcus nodded once. Then he went to the bathroom. He was in there for approximately 4 minutes. He came out with his eyes slightly red and his face composed and went to sit with his daughter. Chloe was drowsy from the anesthesia and slightly confused about where she was and fully certain that she was hungry, which the nurse said was a very good sign. Dad, she said when she saw him. Hey, baby, my chest hurts. I know. To get better. How long? Not long. She accepted this. She looked at him. Did you bring me something from Atlanta? He had completely forgot. You forgot. I was focused on the work trip. Dad, I'll get you something. I wanted a surprise. The surgery went well, he said. That's the surprise. She looked at him with the expression of a child evaluating whether this was an acceptable answer. That's not really a surprise, she said. That was just supposed to happen. Marcus looked at his daughter, his 6-year-old daughter in a hospital bed, 3 hours out of cardiac surgery, informing him that her good health was simply expected. Yeah, he said. You're right, that was just supposed to happen. Next time bring me something. Next time I will, she settled back into the pillow. Dad, yeah, I'm tired. Sleep. Will you stay? I'm not going anywhere. She closed her eyes. He sat in the chair beside her bed. He reached into his wallet. He took out the drawing, Daddy and me and the 2 big son, and he set it on the table beside her where she would see it when she woke up. She had made him a new one the week before the surgery. Same 2 figures, same house. The son was a more reasonable size. At the bottom, in careful, deliberate first-grade letters, she had written, Me and Dad, we are good. He had a wallet-sized print of that one made at the pharmacy. Both of them were in his wallet now, both of them. There is a particular kind of courage that does not announce itself. It does not look like courage from the outside. It looks like a man going to work. It looks like an overtime shift on a Saturday. It looks like a wallet photo carried for 2 years. It looks like a game show application submitted at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night because a specific amount of money is needed for a specific reason, and there are a limited number of ways to get there, and this is one of them. It looks like keeping going. It looks like carrying the drawing. It looks like being there when she wakes up. Marcus Tate sat beside his daughter in a hospital room in Chattanooga and waited for her to wake up, which she did, 22 minutes later, and the first thing she did was look at the drawing on the table and then look at him and smile the smile that was too large for her body and entirely, completely, unreasonably her. You stayed, she said. I told you I would. I know. She closed her eyes again. He stayed. If this story found something in you, if you know a parent who carries something quietly, who keeps going without announcing it, who has a wallet photo of someone they would do anything for, share this with them today. Some stories are worth passing along. And if you want more stories like this one, the kind that remind you what people are actually made of when the stakes are real, subscribe. We find them. We tell them the way they deserve to be told.